a second call to order. So everybody's got their breakfasts? Sorry. Mary's going to correct me on that one. Yeah. So, good morning everybody. Bryanston Breakfast Club. This is going to be our first meeting as Lynn as our president. So just some meeting rules. Please no smoking within the building. Please can go outside onto the grass or out into the front area. I'd like to have
It sounds really interesting.
Okay. It's illegal. There's nothing wrong with that. Out in the front have a cigarette. Keep it specific. And bathrooms. Okay, let's start with the emergency exits. Okay, someone just test that that door can open. Yes. Okay, we've got 2 exits. So we've got one on the back and one on the left. And then bathrooms. Don't go into the kitchen. Bathrooms are out the door. The ladies are on the left-hand side, whilst the men's on the right. Perfect. Is there anything else? Yes, cell phones. Please can you either switch off your cell phone or put it onto silent. And then I'll remind you at the end of the evening to switch it back on so you don't get in trouble.
Evening.
They are off the party.
Sorry, I went to bed at 1 o'clock. So, after the session, we'll tell you to switch it back on so you don't get in trouble with your loved ones. Cool. So, I would like to welcome to the front our President, Lynn, to welcome the club. Please welcome her, Lynn.
Welcome on a wonderfully warm winter's morning to the 105th meeting of the Bryanston Breakfast Toastmasters Club. Our first meeting of the year. Lovely to see so many familiar faces from our club and beyond. I'd just like to acknowledge a variety of people. So to those lovely persons visiting us for the first, second or third time as a non-member, contemplating membership of Toastmasters, we're glad that you're here today. Would you please stand just so that we know who you are? Thanks very much. To members from other clubs who are visiting us today, would you mind standing please, just so we know who you are?
Welcome, Brian.
The members of this club, would you please stand so we know who you are?
The other special tables.
Members of our club committee who are starting in their roles, can I ask you to stand, please? Club committee. Please stay standing. So, just to recognise these people who are members of this club but also have volunteered to support its health and all of you. So, I'd just like to acknowledge Dino as our Sergeant at Arms, Quibus as VPPR, Mandy as VPE, Anae as VPM, Adrian our Treasurer, Tambu our Secretary, and Harold is our immediate past President. Thank you. Audrey? Welcome to you in particular, and thank you for asking us to host our awards, your Area H Awards. We are thrilled to have said yes and look forward to enjoying those later. Just for all of you, in terms of the program, ordinarily table topics is the second part of our morning, and today we will not have table topics, and replacing that are the Area H Awards. Thanks. So the reason I put my hand up to be Toastmaster today is because, actually I'm long overdue, and I know that because I used to be the VPE, but more importantly because we need to share with all of you what our annual theme is for the year, and I thought I'd take up the Toastmaster role to do that today. As many of you will know, our annual theme for the past year was embracing agility. We were reminded at very regular intervals the usefulness of adopting an agile attitude, and I now consider this a highly regarded trait in anybody. Through a collaborative process as a committee, we started with why things are better than you think. It was very healthily chewed on, and a more concise version which will enable easier adoption and greater application was proposed and accepted. The theme for the day is also our theme for the year, and it is better than you think. The initial inspiration came from a book called Factfulness, which is lying on the table if anybody wants to have a glance, written by a Swedish guy called Hans Rosling. And he refers to factfulness as a useful habit worth developing, a stress-reducing one, of only carrying opinions for which you have strong supporting facts. His book references 10 different reasons that we're wrong about the world and why things are better than we think. Over the past 20 years, as an example, the proportion of the global population living in extreme poverty has halved. This is revolutionary, he suggests, and he considers it to be the most important change that has happened in the world in his lifetime. But people do not know it. On average, only 7%, less than 1 in 10, know this. Very often, what one thinks isn't because of stupidity or anything intentional. It is simply the lack of correct knowledge. He says that every audience from all walks of life think that the world is more frightening, more violent, and more hopeless, and more dramatic than it really is. He uses an excellent analogy, likening my knowledge to the GPS in my car. It is vital to my journey that the GPS is using the correct information. I wouldn't otherwise trust it to take me where I want to go. Rather than be embarrassed, he encourages curiosity about why the majority of people misinterpret the state of the world. Some of the comments from some of the committee members around this, Tambu said, she likes the theme for its capacity to foster a positive mindset in the club and in us as a committee over the next year. And I'll share more with you around this as we go. So onto our program for the day. Madam VPE, are there any apologies and program changes?
Our apologies we've mentioned in the program, and there are no changes.
Onto our various role players who are the glue that keep it all together. I'd like to introduce them individually. And first to our Madam General Evaluator and Evaluation Chair, Lucinda. Would you please explain?
Thank you, Toastmaster. So my role today is really to chair the evaluators and hold the session after the speeches have taken place. And to me, this is the most important part of Toastmasters. Like I said, and I always say, is the king's breakfast is evaluation, the feedback. You're not going to grow, you're not going to go anywhere unless you can actually receive it. The thing is about how are we going to do it. That we do it in a nice way. We do it in a way that people can actually take that information and they'll use it and they'll grow. And then I will, I guess, be evaluating the entire meeting, and then I'll be basically looking at all the different role players, their roles and how they've fulfilled them, and basically cheering over that as well. Enjoy the meeting.
Thank you. Mandy, as our timekeeper, would you please explain that role?
Toastmaster, my role is to be the timekeeper for the days. One of my roles is to make sure that we keep our time, as in our meeting time, shorten when we need to. And I will be timing the speeches and the evaluators today. So we use our timer, time machine. So for the speakers, 4 to 6 minutes on green will flash 4, 5 on amber, 6 on red. And for our 5 to 7, 5 green, 6 amber, 7 red. And then for our evaluators, 2 green, 1 green, 2 amber, 3 red. That will be my role, and I will be giving my reports when called upon to do so. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Toastmaster. My role today is first of all to introduce the word of the day. There should be a paper on every table for this, but the word for today is torrid. It's the meaning of which is parched with heat, especially of the sun, so it's hot, giving off an intense heat, scorching, ardent and passionate. In terms of the last example, there are tales of torrid love affairs. That is the word of the day. I will be counting who's using the word of the day to see if people can think on their feet. Instead of saying hot, you can say torrid. Just think on your feet. Then the second part of my duty today is to listen for proper use of the English language. English is not my first language either, so apologies if I miss a few things, but I'm going to try and give you recommendations on proper usage of words or tenses or whatever as needed. I'm not going to call anybody out per se, but I will have some notes for the individual speakers and evaluators later on if they want to see me after the meeting. Thank you.
I'm very excited. Thank you for putting your hand up. Tell us about
Archangel. The role of the Archangel is to note words and sounds used as forcefulness by anyone who speaks during the meeting, such as Other words may be inappropriate interjections, such as and, well, but so. If used excessively by the same person or if repeated twice or more in a row. You should also note when a speaker repeats a word or phrase, such as this means.
Our club sergeant at arms and our meeting. So on for today, Dino, share with us.
I was going to be staying right now. My role today is sergeant at arms. If you do feel uncomfortable within the room, please, because the room gets a little bit too hot, I'm your guide. Just put up your hand and I'll put on the aircon, maybe. Or I'll just instruct the person next to you to fan you down. So yeah, just please indicate so we can make a plan. We do have these windows closed just because of the camera's lighting. There's lighting behind the speakers and we can't really pick it up nicely. The camera can't pick up the speaker very nicely with that light behind it, behind the person. So we do apologize for that. We'll start figure out a plan next time around. That's it. And hope everyone enjoyed their breakfast. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to Tom for managing registration today. Thanks. Okay, on to our very favourite part, simply mine, our prepared speeches for the day. We have 4. It's a ladies' morning. Sepho, Charlotte, Anae, and Nandi. Our first speaker is Sepho. She shares with me, now I'm with you. I was born and bred in Midrand. I'm an only child and I am a lawyer. For most people, lawyer is a synonym for liar. Hopefully after this speech I can convince you all that some of us lawyers are better than we think. Checo will present her Pathways Icebreaker. Her chosen pathway is Presentation Mastery. Adrian, as the evaluator of Checo's speech, would you please tell us about her project?
Her project is the Icebreaker project, so it's an opportunity to find out a little bit more about her. I've already found out that she is a lawyer, which I hadn't known before. And I'll be sort of checking on a number of points here, which I'll sort of read out to you in terms of what I'll be looking for. Clarity, vocal variety, eye contact, gestures, audience awareness, comfort level, and how interesting it all was. Thank you.
Thank you. Please help me welcome Checo. Her title is A Broke Blessed Life. A Broke
As you've heard, my name is Tsehofatso. Tseho is also acceptable. Now, according to Home Affairs, I do have another name. Blessing. Blessing is not my name. Blessing is the meaning of my name. Tsehofatso means blessing in Vedi. On the day I was born, a very flustered nurse, in an effort to remember my name, decided to write its meaning on the closest paper she could find. My birth certificate. Years later, I sat my mother down and I asked her, "Why did you never correct this?" And with a warm smile, she looked at me and she said, "My baby, now you are twice as blessed." My mother was not wrong. I've lived a very blessed life. I was always comfortable thanks to her dedication and thanks to her hard work. I had everything a child could ever want. I was never want for anything. I had the greatest collection of books and I had my own television. Now, at our age, that doesn't mean much. But at my age at the time, I was a god amongst my peers. I loved reading, and I had an interest in all types of literature, from your historical, to your fictional, to your biographical. This love of reading created a fascination in me about the world, and it cultivated a passion for storytelling. As I grew older, I realized that I wanted to experience this world firsthand. I wanted to see it at its best. I wanted to see it at its absolute worst. And I wanted to tell the world about itself. I wanted to be a journalist. So I went to school. Every school I ever attended had the name Midrand in it. I worked hard and I worked towards this dream of becoming a journalist. The time came for me to go to university, and disaster struck. I realized that I was very comfortable and that I would have to take care of myself now. And journalists earned a pauper's salary. From that moment, I realized that my comfort meant more than my dream. And in the folly of my youth, I gave up my vocation for a more lucrative career, a career in law. I studied hard. I did my LLB at the University of Pretoria. I did fairly well, but there was always a sense of emptiness in my life. It just never felt quite right. So I extended my legal development and my legal education. I got a master's degree in commercial law, specializing in banking and finance. And I got that fancy position at a big law firm as a candidate attorney. I finally had the money and did not have a single moment to spend it. I couldn't travel. No one would give me leave. That's when I realized that a pauper's existence might have been the best existence for me. I gave up my big, beautiful job with the title and the money and took a job at a bank. At that moment, I worked on my personal development. I worked on my growth as an individual and on my growth in my career. I decided that I wanted to tell stories again. I wanted to be a great writer. I wanted to nurture that gift of gab that God had given me. That's why I joined you guys. That's why I joined Toastmasters. A lot of years have passed. Not really, I'm still quite young. But I am a little bit older. I am a tad bit wiser. And I may be broke by lawyer standards. I'm okay, but I may be broke by lawyer standards. But with all the opportunities I have for growth and the opportunities I have in this organization, I still consider myself quite blessed. Thank you.
No,
therefore earlier before we started, I said to her, "Oh, you're going to dazzle us," and she said, "No, I'm just going to speak." I said, "No, you're going to dazzle us," and you did. So perhaps earning less in order to nurture one's inherent nature is better than you think. Yeah. Our second speaker is Charlotte. Charlotte will present her pathway as Icebreaker 2, and her chosen pathway is Persuasive Influence. Oh, yes, she is. Nanzi, thanks. If you wouldn't mind sharing her project details with us, thanks.
Okay, the project is more or less similar to what Pickles has done, which I think the purpose of that has already been explained. But I'm going to read out the purpose statement, which is the purpose of the project is for the member to introduce himself or herself, or introduce herself to the club and to learn the basic structure of the public speech. All the best.
Thank you. Please help me welcome Charlotte. Her title is It's All About You. It's all about you, Charlotte.
Good morning, everyone. All you gorgeous people. A young girl sitting in the back of a car, waiting for Dad to be picked up from work, surrounded with the oil refinery, the smells of an oil refinery, and an aeroplane flies overhead. And the young girl decides she is going to fly the aeroplane, and she is going to take people to a place of absolute safety. You are the people in that aeroplane. This young girl is an introvert. She would rather spend time in her own room growing up, reading books this thick, than come out and entertain and speak to people. But she had a dream. Growing up in a household, an Afrikaans household, Afrikaanse pa, where children are seen and not heard, and next to the plate where Dad sits is half of a belt, because the other half broke off. In doing something that he cut it somewhere and it was ridiculous. He just decided to use it for us. Next to the plate you had to eat your vegetables before you were allowed to eat your meat and potatoes. This young girl's voice was squashed. She had a dream. She went to high school and was going to conquer this introversion and join the debate team. Mom had to be there because she drove her. Dad was at home studying. Dad worked during the day and studied at night. I stood up in the debate room with all the parents and teachers there. All my notes ready. I was going to conquer this introversion. And I went blank. Blank. I sat down and cried. But there was a part of me that still had the vision of that aeroplane and taking people to a place of safety of where their voices would be heard. Fast forward to university, orientation week. I felt like an ant amongst all these buildings and all these strange people that I had never met before. From the space of this young girl to the person who would rather read a book than come out and be embarrassed by saying the wrong thing or going blank, I decided that I was not ready for the real world. So I went home and had that very difficult conversation with my Afrikaanse pa. I said, I cannot do this university thing. I'm not ready. Didn't go down well, but it happened. I went and got a job at a bank, and 6 months later, this little voice was saying, there's more. There's more. The adult in me applied for an accounting position because I was good at accountancy at work. Why couldn't I be that in the workplace? I got the job simply because I had the audacity to go for the interview. The financial director, when she wrote her board exams, came first in South Africa. She couldn't believe that I had actually come for the interview. So I got the job. Can you see the little voice coming out? Can you see the little voice facing courage, stepping into it, pushing myself, believing in who I am, never giving up on that little voice? To the young adult who found an outlet for her voice, non-verbally, and taught other people how to embrace their confidence, my journey really started when I saw that aeroplane. And I knew I was going to teach people confidence. I was going to teach people how to have their voice, because I had to find a way to have my own. I taught women, many hundreds of women, how to step into their physical confidence. Embodied learning is my comfort zone. Without having a conversation with 1,000 people, I can get them up to participate with me, and in less than 5 minutes, they will all be feeling great. How? You ask? This is my second icebreaker. So when I do my third icebreaker, you're going to have to hear the rest of the story. But if you Google it, you'll find out a little bit more about that. And I stand here today because I have not given up on my voice. And I will be flying the aeroplane for everyone who wants to go on the same journey as me. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Charlotte. Listening to the little voice, which is readily available to guide us in different ways, sometimes to be brave. It's very often better than we think. Our third speaker is Anae. As a mummy of 2 huskies, she says, I have learned to love winter, and they love it so much. Nothing makes them happier than going for a morning walk when it's 2 degrees. Those little bushy tails wag like crazy while your mummy slips on frost. I have learned winter is better than you think. You can dress for the occasion and work on that summer body and go home to a nice cozy fireplace, and what better excuse to eat carbs with your soup. Anae will present her Pathways Level 1 Speech 2. Her chosen pathway is Presentation Mastering. Tanya, as the evaluator of Anae's speech, would you share with us that?
Good morning, everyone. Presentation Mastery is the path that Anae is on, and she's doing her first speech. This project is about delivering a first speech, getting feedback from an evaluator, and then repeating possibly that speech or another, embracing the feedback from the evaluator, and thereafter being an evaluator herself. So in this one, which is the first speech, the purpose of the speech is for the member to present a speech and receive feedback from the evaluator. The speech can be on any topic, and Anae is an absolute inspiration to me, and Anae does have a stutter. I think I'm almost having it for you right now. And the stutter is aggravated by extreme exhaustion or emotion, and Anae is particularly tired this week. She's not sleeping well. So, Anae, enjoy your speech. Have fun up there. All the best. Thank you.
Please welcome Anae. Her title is Beautiful Africa. Beautiful Africa, Anae.
Morning.
Sorry. Africa. Sorry, let me repeat that again. Sorry, I am having a rough morning. If you can just give me a minute to compose myself.
No stress.
Africa, a land of poverty, warlords, and malnourished children, or a land of hope, of dreams, of unity, where dreams come true. Oh, Africa, my beautiful Africa. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, visitors and guests. My first trip into Africa was to Tanzania. Over here, I lived in a ski view suite. The hotel was on a ski cliff and offered the most ecstatic views all around. I was in paradise as I would start off every morning doing yoga, listening to the sound of the ocean, looking at the waves, and once or twice I saw whales and dolphins playing in the sea. I could not believe this was my home. This was Africa. Driving to the office, all my meditation endorphins went right out the window as the driver swerved into the wrong side of the lane. As we were about to hit the car, he moved onto the dirt road where we drove like crazy, and then with time we went back into our normal lane. It was a very traumatic experience, but I somehow survived 8 horrific trips. This was a torrid love affair. On the one side I was in paradise, ocean, whales, dolphin. On the other side I had a close to death experience. But I made it to the weekend where I got to enjoy cocktails and coconuts in the infinity pool overlooking the beautiful ocean. My very next trip was to Ghana. My friend was marrying the Deputy Defence Minister's daughter, and I was invited to the wedding. It was the most extravagant wedding I've ever been to. It was a royal affair with 800 guests, including were government officials and the Deputy Prime Minister. The ladies wore kaftans, lovely hats. The men had matching traditional outfits or suits. It was here that I fell in love with African clothing. And it was here where I vowed to always buy an outfit to every country which I went to. And I'm a proud owner of a huge assortment and variety of clothing. This lovely dress I bought in Côte d'Ivoire. I've got so many of them. In Uganda, I was so determined to buy my outfit that I convinced a colleague to take me on their local tuk-tuks to go to the local market. And those of you who do not know, a tuk-tuk is a fancy word for three of us on a scooter driving at top speed, taking selfies. Photos to prove it. This is the first time in my life which I've ever done that. It might possibly be the last, but the outfits were really worth it. My Nigeria trip offered a whole new perspective. I always wondered, why don't Nigerian men wear their wedding rings? The answer was that when you're stuck in traffic, which happens often, the robbers will dart through the cars and they'll steal your wedding rings. And if by any chance you have hand weight, which happens because the food is absolutely amazing and you cannot remove your ring, they will cut off your finger. So this is the real reason why Nigerian men don't wear wedding rings. It's not because they are ladies' men and they're tall, dark, and attractive. And yet, when my Nigerian colleagues come to South Africa, they are too scared to walk around in Rosebank because of the high crime rates. How bizarre. But I've realized that it's all relative, because in Nigeria, you know, these big guys with their big guns are the good guys. But in South Africa, you know, the big guys with the big guns are not the good guys. To this, I'd like to conclude that there's good and bad in every country. We look at Africa as being backwards, but we are so caught up in our technological hub, living in our cyberspace worlds, that we've lost the purity and essence as to what our culture really is. This is where the real beauty of Africa lies. Africa, my beautiful Africa, I am proud to be African. Thank you.
Experience for me. I felt like I was there without think. And that dress is beautiful, Africa. And Africa is beautiful. And it is definitely better than many people think. I'll Director at NM Training and NMI, and a mother of one. Her topic is health and safety. She says this is a challenging topic for me as I'm not an expert on the subject, but I have a project in health and safety and would like to be able to speak about it. It is also her pathway's level 1 speech 2. Her chosen pathway is persuasive influence. I don't know, Harold, would you like to repeat? Because Anae's project was the same, so I don't know that we need. Do you want to maybe just share something else? Yes. Okay, thanks.
I can share that she's not speaking in her experience, but the requirements say he or she may be speaking to fulfill the Pathways project or about a topic outside of the Pathways experience. So it's a good choice of assignment. And we're looking for speech organisation more than anything else.
Thank you. Please help me welcome Nandi. Her title is Health and Safety. Health and Safety, Nandi.
Mr. Singh admitted that he did not receive the approvals from the municipality, yet he continued with construction. Tongati Mall collapse, 2 injuries, 23 deaths. 2015, the contracts manager accepts the responsibility of a site that was a temporary site that collapsed. 2 deaths, 19 injuries, M1 bridge. The principal quotes, I realize that the bridge, sorry, I'm very nervous today. Can I start again? Can I start again? Thank you. No, I think I've been saying to myself it's projects I don't know, so I'm going to start again. Okay. 2019, the principal, I quote, we realized that the bridge was loose. We did not advise the department because we didn't think it was going to cause so much harm. 3 deaths, 23 injuries. Driehoek School, Vanderbilt Park. Health and safety in the workplace. The best way to explain health and safety in the workplace is to refer to the Occupational Health and Safety Act of 1993. The Act lays down various duties of the employer with regard to health and safety of their employees, of their clients, of their visitors, and the general public. Some of the regulations connected to the occupational health and safety is the construction regulations, which obviously is for constructors, driven machinery regulation, and asbestos regulation. What is the purpose of the Occupational Health and Safety Act? It's to protect employees from health and safety hazards in the workplace. It's to establish procedures in handling health and safety hazards in the workplace. And it's to provide for law enforcement where such health and safety hazards have not been eliminated or dealt with in a proper manner. Who is responsible for health and safety? The custodian of health and safety in the workplace is the employer. The employer must ensure that there is a safety culture in the organization. Safety culture being the underlying perceptions, beliefs, and habitual practices regarding health and safety within the organization. The employer has to be exemplary in the way he deals with health and safety in the organization. Continuous training must be provided by the employer, and they have to eliminate potential hazards. The employee also has a duty with regard to health and safety. They have to avail themselves for continuous training. They have to abide by the laws or the rules of health and safety. And they have to ensure that they wear their full protective clothing specific to their duties or tasks. What are the benefits of health and safety? Seems like an obvious question, right? Well, we'll try and elaborate on it. One of the benefits, obviously, will be to protect employees in the workplace. And secondly, it reduces the cost of doing business. If you comply, you reduce the cost, legal cost, you reduce the cost of injuries, thereby reducing the cost of insurance. In conclusion, let us think about what the decisions that we make with regard to health and safety today. For example, you build a beautiful hospital with high roofs. You require a jumping castle just to change the light bulb. You have a beautiful house in Bryanston with high windows. You're required to go to work in safety heights just to clean your own windows. On a serious note, the cost of compliance compares to nothing to the cost of lives and permanent disability of our employees. Compliance will make us better people going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Nandi. Interesting that you speak about health and safety today, because I've never had any reason to deal with it in my career, but I'm working on some policies for a company at the moment, and I had to go and better understand their health and safety. And I was thrilled, super impressed. They have this fabulous file, and they had 88%, which is up by more than 40% from a year ago. So, yeah, I guess that it matters, and it's critical. Thank you. Congrats to the 4 speakers. Thanks for dazzling us, entertaining us, and teaching us. Madam Timekeeper, may we have a timekeeper's report, please?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Our first speaker, Taseko's expected duration was 4 to 6 minutes. Her actual time was 4 minutes 26 seconds. Charlotte, her expected duration was 4 to 6 minutes, and her actual time was 5 minutes and 35 seconds. And Nay's estimated time was between 5 and 7 minutes, or expected duration, and she did 8 minutes 42 seconds. And Nandi's expected duration was 5 to 7 minutes, and she did 4 minutes and 18 seconds. Thank you.
For those who haven't been to one of our meetings of late, we have a different voting method in that we don't have a formal voting slip, so you'll see white squares in front of you. If you please write on the top of one of them best speaker and your chosen name, and Dina will walk around and collect those results. Thanks. to our theme before we take a break. Hans Rosling, the author of this, I think, interesting book, provides a particular reason for our misconception about the state of our world. And it is that the human brain is a product of millions of years of evolution. We are hardwired with instincts that helped our ancestors to survive in those small groups of hunters and gatherers. Our brains often jump to swift conclusions without much thinking, which used to help us then to avoid immediate dangers. That, and the fact that we are interested in gossip and dramatic stories, because all those years ago, that was the only source of news and useful information. We need to learn to control our drama intake, without which we are led terribly astray. Through the understanding of data, we should have greater mental peace. Practice factfulness, and he suggests that you'll make better decisions, stay alert to real dangers, and see more clearly the valuable opportunities. Dino, in an email, commented regarding our theme and said there are a lot of variations to this title that can be discussed and interpreted by future Toastmasters. Right, we are ready now for a break. We are a little bit ahead of schedule. It's now 10:08. Let's say it's 10:10. So we'll meet again in 15 minutes' time at 25 past. Thanks.
Cool.